Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We are live here with Dr. Aaron Smith, the author of The Blank Check. We know some of you guys are going to be getting on. We know there's a delayed reaction between going live from StreamYard and getting it to Facebook, all the different platforms and YouTube. And this gives Aaron some time to get it shared on all of his platforms, although we already have it out there. But sometimes, it's nice to go share it again live and stuff. So we want to welcome you all back on this Wednesday morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world and whenever you get to watch this, because it might be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, your time as well. So we wanted to say hello. We want to say welcome. We want to have everyone having a good day here. And we're ready to get rolling here with some interesting conversations. I know we had Aaron on last week with you all. So that was a fabulous time that we got to share. We got to get incorporative conversation amongst everyone and have this talk about STEM, right? We were really talking about school, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. How do you get to bring things back into that larger picture? And that's what would you do if you had a blank check? If you had a blank check, how would you, especially now we have COVID-19, so people probably never really always conceptualize. Schools are a big thing we talk about, right, Aaron? Education is a big thing we talk about it, whether it be politics, whether it be talk in our home, whether it be talk about thing anywhere. We've always talked about how we can remodel the education system, but now we have this big, huge thing called COVID-19 that has hit. And I think it's really making people rethink a lot of things, not just because of internet school, right? But it's making a lot of people think of things differently. So what would you guys do if you did have a blank check to be writing with us? And we want to bring in STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And it doesn't just relate only to that. The STEM program relates to so many other things. So how do you migrate your mindset, everybody, as we're on Migrate Your Mindset with Enlightened Circles? How do you migrate your mindset with STEM? And that's what we want to talk about. So Aaron, welcome back. Thank you for being here again. I'm so glad that you're here because you're always a bright incorporative soul to be talking to. So thank you and welcome back to Enlightened Circles.
Thanks for having me, Jessica. I love talking to you. We always have some fun conversations, and I know today won't be any different.
Yeah, last time you were on, I had a lot of beautiful, amazing feedback, and people really enjoyed you being here. They enjoy your knowledge, enjoy everything that you share. So, I know you got some comments since last time we were on as well. What are some big things since you were on last, and as you're seeing now, we're rolling into the summer, and we're also looking at the whole brand new school year, and everyone's question on the mind, I'm in South Texas at the moment, everyone's question on the mind is okay, what's happening with our school? Are we going back? And this is all dependent on school districts. It's all dependent on different areas. Everything's different everywhere. But what are some of these major concerns you've been hearing from student platforms as well as from teachers' platforms, maybe, that we can incorporate in today's conversation so we can start to migrate our mindset into a positive way, so maybe we come up with some positive solutions instead of maybe just fears?
I think from a student perspective is making sure they feel comfortable with the platform, regardless of it's Google Classroom, Canvas, Blackboard. There has to be some time built in so that students understand all the bells and whistles. Something as simple as a pop-up blocker can create a lot of irritation from folks. And, I know I certainly forget that all the time myself. And you'll see the little red flag and I drop it. Oh, finally, there it is. And through that process, I think parents also kind of need to sit side by side to make sure if there's any firewalls, any kind of restrictions that are in place, that they work through it together to make sure that the child is able to tap into all the features of that platform. Other thing that they've got to think about is making sure kids have internet connection. Unfortunately, there's a huge digital divide across the world, and depending on the region, the state, it could be sporadic, it could be very intense. And I know through the stimulus package passed by the government that they are doing every initiative possible to make sure kids are still getting learning. But we all have to understand learning cannot take place completely on the computer. You have to balance it. You have to become active learners. You have to get away, stretch your legs, if you will, but also be able to do and work outside of your monitor just like you're working inside your monitor.
Well, I think I love how you just started off making the kids comfortable, first of all, that was the most important part, right? And I think we just had magical communications last night with Pauline Crawford Omps on. So if any of you didn't get us on Enlightened Circles, go back and watch that show, because that was one of the things we were discussing, is when you're having these conversations and you're really discussing things, whether it be gender equality issues, education, or anything, it's about when you want to have a good conversation, it's about making that other person comfortable. And I think that first of all, education is for the children, right? Education is for all of us. But if we're talking school, formal education, it is from kindergarten through 12th grade. And then we go into university, professional schools, of course. But how are some good ways, like you're saying, that we can really make these kids feel comfortable? Because there's so much discussion going on in the background about, we're hearing it on media, children are listening to all this, and they're not sure how to decipher all of these different conversations or bring it in. And they're hearing all these different viewpoints that are being impressed upon them. So from an educational standpoint, or a supporting community, how do we make them comfortable about that?
One thing I would suggest is creating a funnel where there's valid and reliable and consistent information being processed to the children. And I think that's where parents need to serve as the catalyst in doing this. Kids can get their information from TikTok and think it's legitimate. Could go to National Enquirer and think it's legitimate. They could go to baddadjokes.com and think it's legitimate. But it's so important that if we don't filter out the things that are irrelevant, things that maybe are not age appropriate or topic appropriate, it's going to get them distracted. And as a result, they're going to be very apprehensive in doing things. Teachers have a shared responsibility in this too, is not only do they have to teach the curriculum to the kids, but they have to feel like they're connecting, like there's magic behind it. And they have the ability to resonate with them just like they're right there sitting side by side. When kids see that happening and they feel the connection, that's when you're really going to see a powerful engagement take place. And that's what we want all of our kids to do. That's what we want all of our teachers to do. But teachers have to be understanding that kids have a lot of things going on right now. We call it backstory, and we will never know some of the backstories that we have for the children. But more importantly, what can we do in the moment that we have with them to enlighten and give them hope?
Well, I like that. What are we doing literally to enlighten and to give hope? And I think that one of the things that we're talking about is stemming new pathways. So as we go into stemming new pathways, and STEM doesn't have to be just STEM, like STEM, the program, right? Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We're talking about how do they even stem new pathways in life, right? From, like you said, because you're talking about, we don't always know the backgrounds on every child. We don't know the backgrounds always on every adult in our life, right? Because adults have had 40 years or 50 years or 60, 70, 80 years, depending on your age, of a background. Now the child incorporates that of the parents, grandparents in their life, as well as their own background. And so it's really beautiful that you're saying, let's give them that hope, so that therefore we don't know their backgrounds, but let's give them that security. Let's give them that hope. And so they can stem their new pathway, whatever that pathway is. But how do we utilize education and STEM, quote unquote, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, or the program it incorporates, to stem these new pathways forward without, especially when we're not sure of backgrounds?
We first have to understand that STEM is not just an acronym. It is really the culmination of 4 industries: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Now there's derivatives of that. You have STEM H, which is healthcare. You can have STEAM. STEAM has a couple different meanings. It could be for the arts. It could be applied mathematics. It could be aviation. It could be architecture. So you have to understand that the fundamentals mean that they're cross-curricular. And through that process, you're taking skills that would have otherwise been in silos individual subjects and you're trying to create a network for them. And that's how some of these phenomenal products came to place, as a result of people willing to dare, be curious, and really test out a theory to see if it worked. You think about Thomas Edison and the light bulb. That was STEM back then. People didn't realize it.
Right.
He had experimented with different gases and filament, and over time, he figured it out. And as a result, look where we are now. Thankfully, we have the opportunity to not be scared of the dark because we have a light switch right at our fingertips. And STEM creates not only hope, not only a chance for a better quality of life, but it gives people a chance to build confidence because they have the insight to develop their dreams and their passions if they really put their best foot forward.
And, I think, how do each one of you, because I love posing questions out to our audience, and those of you who are live watching us now, or even those of you who watch us later, whether it be on Facebook or YouTube that you might be joining us from, please type in and put your comments, put your questions you might be having, as well as even if it's later, because Aaron and I are both going to be looking at them, checking in for them. But how are some of the ways that you guys incorporate this into your life? Because you're talking about a lot of different items here that we are talking about, whether it be for education, but we can be incorporating some of these in our own life as adults as well, and or incorporating for children around us. So what are some ways that maybe you've done it personally within your own home or your own family or with your own friends?
So for me, I could go on Amazon and get a little science kit that we were actually making snow, if you will, in July. Imagine that. And just through this little kit that we got, we were doing this. Another thing that we do at home is we kind of tie in multiple concepts at once. So, for example, I will show what one of my daughters is doing with videos and tying it into a particular science lesson. So now I'm taking technology and science and creating, if you will, an animated cartoon that shows a well-defined skill. So it doesn't have to be something as big as a house. It could be something as simple and minute. It's just using your creative juices and letting it flow.
I love that, because you think about it now, since we're all at home more so, whether it be each and every single one of you out there, and our hearts and prayers go out to everyone who is suffering from COVID-19 symptoms or problems or issues, or if you've lost someone loved, you've lost some loved ones, friends, family, and as well as anyone else who's suffering anything else, right? But because of COVID-19, we're at home a lot more than we normally would be. And I think we're always trying to figure out, well, how do I entertain the kids? How do I keep their educational skills up, especially for those of us who are not trained teachers, right? How do I keep these educational skills up and going and flowing for my kids so that they don't lose out? And I love how you're saying, like, hey, I could go on Amazon and I can buy basically, quote unquote, a science project and create snow at home. And so there are some things that we can be doing. And, or like, if your children are really into animation, there's really programs, and there's a lot of different programs that you can get out there that are even free, that we don't have to be paying for, to create videos, whether it be animation or anything else. And it doesn't have to be, like you said, it doesn't have to be a TikTok, but there's a lot of free apps that they can start learning producing. They can start to learn how to create videos like we might be creating right now, but actually how to go in and produce, take the voice clips, how to redo things, how to cut, do all these different things here. So I love that you're reminding us of this, so that therefore we're not now kind of grasping for straws, as they say, at home, trying to figure out, well, how do we maintain a reality to our child's education and then moving forward in life when we don't have access to the schools like we normally would.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, and that's right. I get it. We all get it. There's only so much a dollar can do. When we are experiencing critical times like this, is we have to use our network and our resources within ourselves to actually make sure that our children have what they need. I heard one community had a retired Marine, and he actually got a math degree, and he's actually volunteering to be a math tutor on certain days of the week for kids to come over and ask for help. So he would open up his garage. His garage would be, quote unquote, the class, if you will, but he would have, if you will, desks or lawn chairs that the kids can spread out in his yard. And, they can just show whiteboards and just, he can kind of walk them through those problems. Again, doesn't cost anything. Who knows? A neighbor down the road may have a chemistry degree, and they could share some ideas with that.
Yeah.
It's the ability to find out what you can do with what you got.
And that's true with everything in life, right? That's how we've survived depressions. That's how we've survived so many different pandemics. That's how we've survived so many things in life. And is exactly by doing what you say. Find out what you can do with what you have in life. And I think as we share this, we do assist people in migrating their mindsets as well as stemming themselves to new pathways, right? Because now we're not just sharing chemistry with them. We're teaching them this is different ways you can learn chemistry. We can make snow at home. We can utilize vinegar in different formats to show you different, they're safe chemicals to be utilizing at home, right? But we can do certain different science experiments, or as you are also, I love how you're saying neighbors that are retired or former Marines or something. So now they're also starting to gain a respect and an understanding of this is how we socialize with others. This is how we socialize with other age groups. This is how we now have respect. This is how we stem ourselves out into new pathways, and we learn from others' experience and wisdom and knowledge. And that's one thing that I really love about STEM and the programs. And like you say, it's not just STEM for the basis of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, where it started. I love that you remind us as well that there's a lot that comes into it. It could be arts, it can be architecture, it can be so many different other items as well. That have branched off from the original program, but it's really also bringing the community in, and the community, the different jobs, everything else, so that you can, not everyone is going to decide maybe that they want to go to the university and college. And we discussed this last time, and a lot of people can actually be making the same amount if they did have a 4-year or postgraduate doctoral type of degree just out of even high school, should they get involved in the right aspect or the right community at the right time in their life. And so it's about, I believe, like you said, it goes back to making those children feel invited, making them feel important, not just making them, allowing them to feel invited, allowing them to feel important, and us listening to them so we can find out what's really spiking their knowledge, their interests, so that we can really help them shoot forward and launch forward. If any of you guys are out there that are kids tuning in, and when I say kids, I mean of all ages, even if you're 90 years old, you're a kid at heart. So if there's some different things that you have that inspired you, or teachers or anyone out there, something that inspired you, go and share these memories that maybe you had that were pinnacle times in your life that inspired you to have that switch, inspired you to move forward, inspired you to stem your pathways and migrate your mindset. Because as we get older, we also learn to migrate our mindsets of who we are and what we are. I can tell you right now, I'm not the same person that I was prior. And I hope every day I always grow to be better. That's my goal. Be more open-minded, be better. I mean, your core, who you are, what you are as far as morals, values, and standards, but yet at the same time being open-minded that that's not the only box I live in. So stemming to new pathways is something that's beautiful to always do in life, being open to new ideas, new formats. And that's one thing I love about through STEM process and the educational process. We are opening our minds up to new things and educating ourselves in a new way. And that's what Enlightened Circles is all about as well, right? It's about enlightening your circles within your mind, your heart, your soul, your body, to receiving new things, new information, and yet as well going out and sharing those in a positive way, enlightening other circles around you and connecting with other enlightened circles. So how are some other ways that you kind of have seen with these beautiful, amazing, the youth that you've worked with through STEM, that they get to feel that enlightenment, that strength, that I think it's very hard. It's very important that we start to find ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
How have you seen through the educational process that this really gives them an opening to start to find themselves, find out who they are, and feel that ownership? Because in life, as a lot of times as adults, if we don't have that ownership, then we're always searching, whether it be through relationships, whether it be through jobs, whether it be through so many different things. And then we fall into depression, anxiety, and other items because we just didn't get to have that strength, those people that pushed us behind at the right time in our life to listen to our interests and help support our interests. So it takes us a lot longer to find ourselves in life, and we could have been a lot more successful earlier. How have you seen some of these turnarounds and ignition started?
Well, I think it actually is in the eye of the beholder. I love picking as an example women in STEM, you know, and a lot of the women, young ladies that I've seen coming into our program, they're curious, but they don't have a lot of experience. Some of them live in apartments. Some of them may not have never been around a garage. And when you see them, they're very hesitant at first. They're very apprehensive. But with a confident teacher who's working with them side by side, and they have their peers surrounding them, and they have the ability to do the same quality of work as the person next to them, you want to talk about instant gratitude. And it just basically they beam. They beam because they have found a niche that they never realized they had. And one of the things that I like some of our teachers doing is that if there is a skill that one of our ladies does particularly well, he'll tell the young lady to go work with the guys who need a little extra help, and that's a powerful statement right there. Not only does it give her confidence, but it begins to instill seeds of leadership there. And that's something we all need. We need to know that we can do it. We need to know that we're respected by our peers, but we also know that when thrown in the fire, we can come through it.
I think, and when thrown in the fire, we can come through it. And I think that is a beautiful statement that's overall for everything in life, right? Because when you learn it in that format, whatever the fire might be of that day, that week, that month, and the year, we really can come through it. And so I love that you're saying that this gives people, especially youth, that understanding and that knowledge that when we're thrown in that fire, we can still come through it. And like COVID-19 right now, everybody, when we're thrown in the fire of COVID-19, remember what Aaron just said. We can come through it, because it is that important to be able to get through things, come through things. And I think like a lot of times we don't allow our brain to understand, or our mind or our heart or souls, if you're in a major breakup, and especially if we're talking about youth, when we're at the age of middle school, high school, a little bit after, heartbreaks are hurtful, very hurtful. It doesn't matter if you're 40 years old and going through divorce, 50 years old, 60, those kinds of things are hurtful. But I think that's where when we look at education, we're always talking about thinking of formal education of, okay, we've got math, science, technology, whatever it is, right? We think of the history subjects, English subjects, we think of those basic foreign languages coming in, but we forget about that those are still the foundation for everything in life, spiritually, emotionally, physically, for our physical body, our emotional self, spiritual. And then but these tools that they're learning in school are those items that let us remind us like, hey, when you're in that fire, you can still come through it.
Oh, absolutely.
And you learn new techniques and knowledge in order to learn to put your fires out.
Yes. It's like a firefighter. You got your gear on, and you get, if you will, the scouting report going into the scene. And then you have to make a predetermined assessment of what equipment and tools and what paraphernalia you'll need going into it. That helps you extinguish it a lot quicker. And in some cases, you reassess, you regroup, and you reattack it. People that go through an enduring stress, such as COVID-19, such as a personal crisis, we have to be able to remind ourselves we can and we will get through this. Failure's not an option. because your life is just as important as the person next to you. You might be the next person who's going to perform a miracle for somebody else.
Hmm.
You might be the next person that actually cures COVID-19. You never know what's going to happen. And that's why I say what comes around goes around, and make a difference along your journey so that it has an impact on others to get them ahead.
I love that. Yes, we need to figure out how do we do things in our life with ourselves to make an impact on others, to get them ahead. And that's that selflessness, right? That's that sharing that unconditional love, sharing our knowledge, sharing our wisdom in all these different ways. Because it's not about, if we were meant to just make ourselves better, we'd be the only ones here on this planet, on this globe, dealing with everything, maybe just the animals, the environment, and the beautiful surroundings around us. But we're here together. So there is a purpose, there is a reason. And whatever your foundation, your basis might be for each one of us, culturally, religiously, spiritually, emotionally, we should keep that in mind, right? About how we are here to actually not just be ourselves, but be ourselves on our own journey, grow on our own journey, as well as interact with others. And I love how you say, how you share that with us. You know, last time we had a lot of questions from beautiful people that were on live and even after, of how do I incorporate this in my community? But we also have globally, right? There's an interest globally. If people said, well, is this global? Is this only in the US? Is there programs like it? And I know you have some knowledge base on that as well, because you've gone and spoken in other countries in regards to STEM and or education. So enlighten us on that. And then what can we do on a global standpoint? Like, you know, we have beautiful people that come in as guests on Enlightened Circles, or people that tune in from beautiful friends I see right now from Portugal were tuning in. I also saw some people from Japan tuning in as well, joining us. And there's people from Europe as well. So how do we bring this globally, or find out what's going on in our local communities so that we can help incorporate this with our Enlightened Circles, our heart, our wisdom, our knowledge?
We first have to understand that, you know, we are a beacon. We're a beacon of ourselves, our family, our religion, our community. And through our beacon, that's where people actually get to see who you are before they actually get to know who you are. And when it comes to STEM, it's very similar. STEM is a beacon of that country's community, or the state, or even the country, to show how they're developing and how they're advancing their communities. And there are common threads across the world, and some are ahead further than others. But one thing I can honestly say is people that truly understand the concepts of STEM are already light years ahead into developing and sustaining the next industrial revolution. You know, I'm going to pick Argentina, for example. Argentina is one of the places in the world that probably has the best gender 50-50 ratio of STEM employees. In STEM, for the most part of the world, it's male dominated. And to me, that saddens me, because I see so many smart young ladies that are truly incredible in their work, but have never been given a chance, never had the right mentor on board. And think about what it's going to do, not only for that individual, but also for their family and for their local economy. You know, when done right, when STEM is done right, you're going to see an amazing transformation take place. You're going to see major crises solved, more than COVID-19. I'm talking about, I truly seeing a cancer cured, climate change reduced and reversed. You know, we're going to develop an opportunity to feed people so that they're not starving in the world. And we're getting there. As a world, we're getting there. I think sometimes there's still a little pride in place where we don't want to share all of our trade secrets. But really, humanity is about sharing, because when you do share, you get so much more back in return.
We do. I mean, and that's one of the reasons we're here live
Yeah.
right now. We're trying to share with each and every single one of you, and we are open to what you're sharing with us and what you're sharing with everyone else. That's what Enlightened Circles is all about. It's a platform for us to be able to share with you, but you to share with us and share with everyone else, so that we all come to a brighter place, a brighter understanding, right? And we get to do it with, like you said, listening, inviting everyone else in, respecting that conversation, respecting that knowledge, respecting that information, but yet igniting each other in this enlightened way to really take ourselves to new levels, So that's a beautiful part about, like you said, to be able to share. You're talking about, one of the things you're talking about was global warming. You're talking about some of these different items that have been affecting us globally prior to the fear, let's say, of COVID-19 coming in and the lockdowns kinds of issues. But prior to that, we were looking into a lot of global issues. How have we been able to start to migrate our mindset through educational programs like STEM? And what have you seen? Because I know you've been, like I said, in other countries. How have you seen other countries as well kind of mirroring a lot of that same global awakeness towards these global warming, environmental issues, engineering, being a lot more conscious, right, of our Earth and our planet and ourselves?
So one thing that I'm noticing, a lot of countries that I've talked to, visited, if you will, is they are looking into data, big time data. They're looking at longitudinal trends. They're looking at locality trends, things such as the weather, the temperature, if you will. They're looking at the rise in sea temperature. They're looking at pollution, smog. They're looking at factors where they can trickle all the way down to see what truly is the isolating variable that's precipitating the majority of it. And once you're able to do that, then that's where you can create, through STEM, opportunities to either bypass it or even eliminate it. It's, in some ways, STEM is replicated in terms of the model, but the way it's delivered is different sometimes from country to country.
So a question. If you are a person, like if we would have had STEM when I was growing up, I'd have been all about it. Like, where's that school at? Where can I go? And we had some places kind of similar, at the time, but it's a little bit further distance because I was raised more rural, outside of a larger city where those types of opportunities and schools were at. If you have interest now with the internet, how would you say, okay, maybe you don't have a STEM in your school. Maybe you're not sure if while the time your child is in school or at the certain grade point that they're at, maybe they're in 6th grade, you're not sure if STEM would come into the school by the time they're graduated out. How do you spark people's interest, or how can people support their children's interest into these types of programs maybe that maybe are not quote unquote supported, or it's part of the school's infrastructure? How do we allow them or help support them to still have a STEM type of education or knowledge base? Is there programs out there that have been developed that kids can be a part of, even though it's not part of their actual school, or so they could be part of these contests, or now especially maybe community members as well really want to incorporate things with like apprenticeships as well?
Yes. And so glad you mentioned apprenticeship, because that's another, I call it a linchpin to a successful STEM implementation. From a school perspective, if you're lacking the resources, start off with your community college and see what available things that they can tie in. Going to the low-hanging fruit. What can they do? Come over for career day. And then from there, maybe bounce over to your business, but make sure you're talking to the right person at the business and be prepared. Don't just go in there and give a general overview. Have a laser faceted approach so that they understand why you need their involvement, what it is going to benefit them in the long run, and how can you make it work? How can you develop an agreement so that everybody gets a slice of the pie? Nationally, there are there's organizations people can join. I believe there's one called Girls in STEM. You have a lot of cyber type of programs where people could go in virtually, if you will, and can do their own camps. Um, you know, you can actually reach out to your Chamber of Commerce and ask them, how can we bring more STEM into our schools? And they will listen. Chambers of Commerce, you know, when you have a parent that is committed in their work, that means they're not worried about things at home. So if you have your children who are doing great things in the community and it's because your business is being a part of it, that employee is going to work that much harder to make sure that it's being appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely all kinds of ways you can do it. I think it's just finding out your needs. Now, number two, who can you contact? And number three, having a good structured conversation with feedback. Don't make it a one-stop shop, make it continuous. Invite them into school. Make them feel like it is their school also, not just their visitor. Thanks for coming. Enjoy your day.
I love that you're telling us about, hey, there's online programs. So like if you're in a small area, in a small village, a small town, whatever it might be, a little bit more rural versus a larger city that might have programs or something. Mm-hmm. If there's not a STEM near you, there are online programs. And now with the internet, if you have internet access, there's groups you can actually belong to, a part of, and do that for your children, or children can do it themselves in a sense. We have resources now and groups that we could be a part of. And that's not something that maybe we had in the past. So this is where the technology has been a beautiful advantage for all of us to start to enlighten ourselves, enlighten who we are, enlighten what we are. The rest of us are out there Facebooking all the time on our phones or watching Facebook, Instagram posts and everything else. You can be having your children or yourself as well, just as involved in something educational.
Yes.
As well.
And one of the things that I just remembered to my mind is the NEA has this incredible opportunity for STEM academies. They actually go through digital learning. They actually have high school courses that deal with Cisco. They actually deal with Amazon. I believe it's is it not WMD, but it deals with their algorithm and programming. So, and the best part about this is the NEA is doing this at like 10% of what the total cost of it would be.
NEA would be National Education Association, is my assumption?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
okay.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I actually had a conversation with the founder of them, Dr. Kutnan, incredible man. And he told me his vision, and his dream is to create more STEM across the world. And he's offered these courses that can truly drive interest and really could be a life changer. It's just getting it into the hands of potentially nonprofits, schools. And again, it is a slither of the cost. They do vouchers for certification test, and the vouchers very minimal as opposed to paying $200, $250 for an actual voucher if they went through a college course or a testing service to actually take it. And
as you're saying this, I'm seeing emojis fly, so I know people are liking this. Well, I think it's awesome. Truth. I think it's beautiful, and at a fraction of the cost, especially right now, guys. Hey, listen up. We've got where finances have been hit hard at home, but there's options. And there's options.
This can be used for homeschooling. This can be used for students that are maybe on house arrest. This can be for neurodiverse bilingual students. There's multiple languages in this platform that they developed. And, when I looked at it, I was just blown away at the things that they had developed. And, I'm so glad I'm here to share and enlighten everybody with this opportunity, because until a month ago, I didn't know much about it. And now it's like people need to see that there are incredible things. We just need to take the time to research it and know.
Mm-hmm. So did he read your book, The Blank Check, and this is the program? He said, let me figure out if I had a blank check, this is what I'd be doing.
No,
No,
no.
but you guys, you can. So you could be reading his book, The Blank Check, and come up with your different opportunities, projects, plans to do items like this, especially if you are a non-for-profit organization, if you are a non-for-profit organization and you're looking for new ways, maybe take into consideration Dr. Aaron's Blank Check book. You can find him at aaron.smithphd.com/blank-check. And I say, you guys, if you have the opportunity to read the book, now I know in my family, my sister-in-law, her mother is special education, and your book is one of the books that they actually have them utilize. They use STEM and they use special education, and your book is actually one of the ones that they bring in for some of their teaching models as well. And she has found it so helpful, so eye-opening, as well as an educator, to be discussing the different systems. How does your book really assist people in opening their mind, not just in the educational world, but in our life, in our Enlightened Circles, right? In our world.
So when I try to write the books, I didn't want to be so technical. I wanted to be everyday talk. So number one, people aren't intimidated. And number two, people could hopefully formulate ideas based upon what they already have versus what they want. And through conversations with our business partners and a lot of early morning coffee and imagination, it just gets developed. The beauty of it is it's like a blank sheet of paper. It's what you want to put on the paper that's going to create your picture.
Interesting. So what do each one of you want to put on your paper? And what kind of picture do you want to create? I think that's a beautiful thing to always keep in mind for, here in the US, we're midday. For most people, it's like mid-morning or midday. My beautiful friends from Japan that I saw logged on, or Australia, or people in Portugal, it's evening for you guys. It's, another hour for somebody else. But each one of us comes into a whole new day. So we come into a whole new blank page. And I like to say, with what you just said, what is it that you want to create on that paper? What's the picture do you want created on your blank page? So what's your blank check idea of what are you going to put forth in your day in order to create what you like that picture to look like? And who are you going to bring into your life? Right now we're bringing in Dr. Aaron Smith in with us into Enlightened Circles so that we can stem new ways, right? We can migrate our mindset here on Migrate Our Mindset to stem new pathways as we want to create new pictures on our blank page. So, I thank you for sure for being here today so that you're waking up, because I love the fact that you're sharing with us. I've heard so many people say, well, I don't have XYZ program. And sometimes even though you do Google search, you might not find it right away. Yeah. But when we get to listen to somebody like you, as well as the educational association that you were talking about, the NEA, the National Educational Association, and the founder, how they're looking at new ways now to provide us with services. And sometimes we just don't know where to look. And sometimes when you Google things, if you don't use the correct keywords and search engine optimization doesn't pull it up for us, then we don't find what we're looking for. But by listening to people like you and sharing things here on Enlightened Circles, we really can start to know new places to look in order to develop who and what we are and what we're looking for in life. So thank you for bringing that forward, because if you guys don't have a STEM program, if your kids are into science, technology, engineering, mathematics, art, agriculture, whatever it might be, architect, science, whatever it might be that your children are into, and you see that sparks an interest for their future, for their life, for them to be enlightened, for them to stem new pathways, know that there are resources, even if your school doesn't have a program. So a lot of times we put the blame on school systems and say, well, they don't have this for my child. If I was living in a different place, in a different area, then I would have these for my children as far as education. And right now we have Aaron here showing us and telling us there are opportunities for us, even if we don't have them in our own hometown. So if you have connection to the internet, which most of us do, and if you don't have it on your cell phone, if you don't have a computer or internet at your home, there are public places, the library, I know they're kind of closed down now. But there are some different places. I know a lot of schools have been, with COVID-19 closing down, they've been having wireless accessibility outside in parking lots. I'm not sure if your school's doing this. I know back home in our rural areas, because we know a lot of people don't have access to the internet. If you drive up, if you have a format to get to the school, they are beaming the wireless outside, so you can be on a device and have access to the internet from the safety of your car. Or sitting outside in the shade at a social distance place formats. And there's other places providing these services as well. So maybe look that up, look into your community, look to see where you can go. Maybe if you don't have internet access at home, or you don't have cell phones with internet access, everybody, if you can, just kind of be chiming in and checking in to see where maybe you can get some service.
Yeah. And, I actually was reading a grant that actually used buses to be a hub spot for neighborhoods for several miles. And you think about that in a rural area, maybe Arizona, New Mexico, that's actually pretty brilliant, because you just can't put a tower up, because you got to go through all the permits and licensing agreements and things like that. But just so easy just to put a bus there, temporary, get you going. You got things like Sprint 1 million. So school districts can apply, hopefully get the grant, and that would give them potential hotspots for students that are eligible for it. You got companies that could very easily donate if it's an opportunity that they see to be a win-win, and it's just thinking creatively. I'm trying to get rid of the expression thinking outside of the box, because boxes are very two-dimensional. When you think of life now, life should be vibrant. Life should be enlightening. Life should be three-dimensional, even four-dimensional, where we're accessing so many angles and so many approaches that, our reality is truly 360 degrees.
And our reality changes every day. So sometimes we start trying to solve so many problems, but we don't realize that, guess what? The same reality we had today is not necessarily always the reality of tomorrow. So it's good to think creatively, so you can always bring those new creations in to what you're doing. Excuse me, my allergies are acting up here. I was getting ready to sneeze. So if I sneeze, don't be alarmed or surprised, everybody. And we're at a social distance. We're safely across. You got to make jokes on here.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and sneeze. Hold on. There was just some grass cutting, and I have allergies year round. So it was just finally getting in there. But, there's something about reality, right? Reality changes. Grass gets cut one day and then allergies are inflamed the next. So you adjust and you adapt. And it's something, we're talking about something so minute and we're making jokes about it, but it's reality of how life is, right? Something like getting grass cut can change our reality of our next day, our next moments in life. So as we learn to think creatively, we can understand how to incorporate new things, incorporate new styles, incorporate new ideas into our everyday life as it adjusts with us, So I love that. One of the beautiful things is assisting the adjustment of the community with STEM. And so if it's outside businesses, how the community adjusts with us and how we can adjust with them. So bringing in how, as we're utilizing STEM, how, if we want to, we have something that maybe we can assist other youth through our programs. How do we reach out, and maybe if there's not a STEM program, be a part of one of these ones online, because everything's so virtual now? Or maybe is there anything now that we are going virtual, and now these children that used to come for apprenticeships one-on-one to local businesses, do you know of anything maybe now that they're starting to do online in order to maintain that apprenticeship with STEM for this next school year?
So a lot of times what organizations will do is they'll do, if you will, resources that go in conjunction with lessons. For some people, they call them extended activities. They call them enrichment ideas. I think number one is to find out what cadre of resources do you want to get involved with? You
Mm.
know, if we're talking about the sciences, if you will, you may want to tap into NASA. If you want to do something, let's say that's more so engineering, you may want to go into the Society of Manufacturing Engineers Education Foundation, you know, where they're talking about adding additive manufacturing, aerospace engineering, and things like that. If you want to go into flying, you have organizations like Women in Aviation. If you're in rural areas, you've got 4-H. You know, you still
Right.
have your girls club, you still have your boys club, and they're doing things to promote people being well-rounded. So you're right. When they can't do things in person, like have their monthly meetings in person, at, if you will, at the den, then they can do the next best thing and be able to conduct activities outside of it.
Yeah. And I've always heard how, well, I don't know if I should reach out because youth aren't inspired these days to really get involved and to do anything. And we have to push them so much. Right now, right here with Aaron, he's saying, look, there is a lot of youth. There is programs like STEM that are out there that show youth do want to get involved. They want to be doing something more than just the normal English, math, science kinds of things. And they want to get involved. They want to have that hands-on training. So if you are a person that you believe you can assist in migrating these mindsets of the youth and help stem them to new pathways, reach out to your community, reach out to your STEM programs, reach out and, it's new ways to volunteer. It's new ways to pass on your knowledge, your expertise, as well as, gain apprentices for you and find the correct, legal aspect, the correct format, the correct programs that work for you. But, you might be able to find an amazing personal assistant that you can bring somebody in and share your knowledge base and help teach someone else and jump them through the hoops light years ahead of where you had to go. And that's what this world is always about, right? Is sharing your knowledge base, sharing it with others so that therefore we can all share together. So that's one thing I love about the way STEM is.
And sadly, a lot of times kids are disconnected. It's because they feel rejected. They've never connected with somebody. They've had a horrific experience and just never rebounded from it. So for those that say that it can't be done, how do you know what their backstory is? And maybe how do you know why they're saying that? You know, it's like, if you will, a piece of a clay. The more you chip away at it, the more you start to see it form, and then you sculpt it, and then it becomes this beautiful masterpiece. The same principle occurs with a child that's isolated, withdrawn, not with it. That is a beautiful piece of mold that you can develop into a phenomenal sculpture. You just can't chip away at it with one or two little hits. You've got to take the time. You got to develop it. You've got to really study it. You've got to really make sure it is as detailed and pristine and perfect as you want it to be. That's when you'll see the difference.
Yes, I believe that. I believe that is so true. And one of the beautiful ways that we're doing it right here on Enlightened Circles is by having these conversations and having these magical conversations. And it goes back to what you were saying right now, what we started with is by inviting them in. By inviting them in. And how important it is to make somebody else feel welcome. Because like you said, we don't know the backstory. We don't know somebody's history. We don't know all the issues. So when we start jumping to our preconceived notions or our thoughts, and we're in the box and we're not thinking creatively, then we are not as inviting for these conversations to happen, as the sharing to happen. So like Aaron said, let's think creatively. Let's get out of our box and think creatively in beautiful ways and beautiful formats of how we really do invite somebody else in. How do we invite them in so that we, in a sense, are having not just a blank check, a blank page, to go ahead and create something new within our lives, but assist others in creating their new blank check, their new blank life, their new blank page day by day, so that they understand, although we have a big, long, big book, it can have new chapters. But guess what? As that book grows, because life grows, we have blank pages that we can always be recreating and creating new pages with what we do and how we do it. So everybody keep that in mind as you're out there this whole next week and you're going into your weekend, and we're coming into a new school year, right? We're coming into a new school year because school years, it's basically summer break is over in the northern hemisphere, and winter break is mostly getting over in the southern hemisphere, and we're coming into the new terms, the new systems as well. So as we come into these new times and these new seasons, what would you do if you had a blank check to recreate the educational system? What would you do if you have your way to assist in migrating other mindsets and your own mindset to stem yourself to new pathways? So keep that in mind. Erin has shared so many great, knowledgeable, inspiring quotes, ideas, information, as you always do with us. What else is there that maybe you want to share before we jump off this today?
A challenge. You know, I'm going to throw a challenge at you. Not necessarily at you because you do it, but for the listeners. My challenge to you is to take a different approach, take a different mindset, and reach out to somebody new every day. And it could be somebody where you work at. It could be somebody in your neighborhood, and find a connection with them. Make them feel special. Make them feel like they've known you for years. When that happens and relationships develops, you're going to become even stronger than where you were before. And the only thing it does, 1-2 minute conversation, you don't know that could make the change that they needed in their lives. You know?
It's true. I've had more 1 or 2 minute conversations unexpectedly, or just by reaching out to somebody else, even including yours truly here, that we had that 1 or 2 minute reach out kind of conversation, and it brings new pathways in.
It does. It brings new opportunities. It brings a new spirit of adventure. It brings a new awakening. And all this fused together creates an enlightenment so powerful that you shine no matter where you are, no matter what circumstance you're in, and no matter what adversity you're facing.
I love that. Well, I accept the challenge, because even though, like you're saying, I do it, it doesn't ever hurt to remember to continue to do it and not get lax in my ways as well, or reach out to one extra person more than maybe what I might have normally been reaching out to. So I accept the challenge, and hopefully each and every single one of you out here that's watching today or later at some point accepts that challenge as well, so that you can stem yourself to new pathways. You can incorporate new connections and enlighten yourself, like you said, and bring in new awareness to all that you are and all that everyone else is. Because as we said last night as well here on Enlightened Circles for last night's show, it's about having these magical conversations and sharing more with other people and understanding people from different perspectives. As we understand everyone from their proper perspective, then we also understand how to engage with each other and do so in a much more inviting, respectful manner. And we get a lot further in life to many more new platforms in a more cohesive, positive manner. And I believe, like you said, we're all looking for a lot more positivity in life. We're all looking for ways to change the world. But remember, when we change in the world, it's actually about changing that world within, right? So when we talk about changing the world, everybody, take your time to change your world within. Take your time to change your universe within. Take your time to change all that you are, to enlighten yourself, to migrate yourself to new pathways, right? To stem yourself to new pathways, to do all these beautiful things that Erin has talked about here as well. And it's just so beautiful. It's so amazing. And it's so important for us to have these conversations, have this awareness. And thanks to every single one of you who has joined us here today and engaged with us. And those of you who are going to engage later, send your comments, send your questions in. You can find this amazing person AaronSmithPhD.com/blank-check. And so it's up on the screen, you guys. Look up Aaron. He is an amazing soul. He's got a lot of different knowledge base that he can always share with you. And is there anywhere else that people can find you? Are you on social media? Where are you at, so that people, if they're looking for you or they want to follow you besides your website, that they can find you, Aaron?
Pretty much social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. It's just Aaron Smith, PhD.
Great. Well, there you have it. Follow Aaron Smith, PhD. You guys know where to find me, right here on Enlightened Circles, as well on social media, Enlightened Circles, whether it be on LinkedIn as well. And Aaron and I follow each other. So you'll see if you need to find him as well, you can find him via Enlightened Circles. But, Aaron, thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Thank you for awakening us as well, especially to all these online programs as we all start to go into new school years, new ways. We're looking for new ways to incorporate our children's education and how we can get them to new pathways. And or even if our schools did not have these programs, where are some areas that we can look for them and incorporate STEM into everything that we do to assist them in stemming to new pathways, migrating their mindset and migrating ours. So thank you for being here with us today. Thanks for sharing with us. Thanks to your family for all that they do too, because I know you've got kiddos, you've got your wife, and as you're doing the education, you're doing things globally as well. They're still continuing, and they're helping you, like you said, think creatively to inspire the rest of us as well. So thanks to the rest of your family as well for all that they do. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Have a beautiful day, everybody, and we'll see you soon again here on Enlightened Circles.